When deciding to choose a new pet rat, you're generally going to have to decide whether you want to go through a standard pet store chain, which is probably where most people would acquire one, or if you want to go through adoption, or if you want to go through a breeder. And generally, I think those are the three categories or the three places where somebody could acquire a new pet rat. If you choose to go through a breeder, generally it means you're looking for a very specific breed, a very specific variety or type of rat, or even a specific color pattern or color mutation of the rat. And breeders can be found both through local rat clubs. You can often find breeders by going online and doing internet searches as a means to find them. The majority of people probably are getting their pet rats through rescues. There are a lot of rescue organizations. There are a lot of people who choose to take in unwanted rats, who take in litters of rats when somebody unexpectedly has one, or the rescues will often acquire the rats through hoarding type situations, which is an unfortunate aspect of what sometimes happens with these animals, and they'll take in a large number of them and then have to go through the process of rehoming them. Otherwise, people will sometimes go to the pet store to find a rat. Sometimes the rats that are available in pet stores are actually there and intended to be sold as food for reptiles like snakes. So sometimes it's most ideal to consider going through adoption, going through a rescue organization to try to pick out the type of rat that you want. When looking for a rat, generally you want to find one that's happy, healthy, looks contented, is social, doesn't appear to be fearful, looks like it has pretty clean, healthy looking eyes, no nasal discharge, no trouble breathing. Overall appearance of that rat looks like a generally healthy animal with a well-maintained coat, normal activity, normal alertness, and find what's most appropriate for you. Most people choose to adopt a rat that's younger. That way they can socialize it, that way they can handle it more, that way they can raise it in the way that they want and have it used to their home life and to their environment. So overall, when choosing a rat, look for a healthy animal, decide if in fact you need a specific type of variety. Although most people don't, you can generally check online or check with local rat groups, check with local veterinarians that see and treat rats, and try to get put in touch with rescue organizations, sanctuaries, or generally people who do pet rescue that may have a number of rats available for adoption. So having a pet rat definitely has its values. The most important thing in most people's desire to have a rat is to have a friendly, curious, soft and fuzzy, furry animal to play with and hold. When it comes to trying to consider fun activities to do with your rat, there's a lot of variability, and a lot of it just depends on the rat's personality and what your interests are with your pet rat. For the most part, people may choose to set up mini obstacle courses, they may choose to set up mazes, they may try and create an environment in a closed-off room or in a bedroom where the rat can have some out-of-cage time and have a chance to scamper around, to climb, to spend time in a type of environment that enriches them as well. Some people will actually like to take their rats outside. It's recommended that they never be out loose, where there's a chance that they could fall to the ground and run off. So they do need to be placed in an appropriate type of transport carrier. Other people like to just have their rats out for social time. They may want to just take them out on the bed and play with them. They may want to allow them to just hang out on their shoulder while they're reading email or doing some work around the house. Some rats become very adept at wanting to be shoulder rats and actually enjoy the time that they spend allowing the owner to do their normal activities with the rat with them. They generally aren't going to be doing a lot of tricks, although spending time with them to socialize them, having friends come over to play with them, interacting with them, seeing how they react to certain types of new foods and treats. You know, there are all different things that you can do to enjoy being with your pet. Most commonly, just the social time, just the interaction, just the ability to have them cuddle with you, sit with you while you're watching TV, be able to stroke or pet them, are some of the more common activities that people do with their rats. It's really important to put some effort into enriching your pets' lives. And this is no exception with pet rats. Keep in mind that rats tend to be animals that are going to spend the majority of the time in their cage, and it's important to have various forms of enrichment for them so that they have things to do and things to entertain them. Most commonly, people will provide them with nesting type materials. They like to shred, they like to chew. Sometimes it's as simple as a handful of paper towels that they can tear apart and build a nice big nest to hide in. Some things to put in the cage that often are good for them may be blocks to chew on. They may like to have stuffed animals to carry around or to play with. Other things for rats to use sometimes are the hanging types of bird toys that people sometimes think of for large birds. They're rope, they're pieces of leather, they're wooden blocks. They're safe, they don't have any artificial chemicals on them, and it provides the rats, if they choose, something to chew on, something to play with, ropes to shred. Another thing that rats like that maybe is not a toy are hanging hammocks and hanging beds in their enclosures. They will very often spend a lot of time shredding them, chewing them. They often decide that they want to create a bed and they want to have a big fluffy burrow type bed. So, though not considered a toy, providing them with safe materials to chew up, providing them with things to shred, providing them with pet store cotton that's safe to use with small rodents for them to shred and create a nest as well. In most cases, they're not necessarily going to play with toys, but it's good to provide them with forms of enrichment, such as things hanging in the cage, things they have to climb to reach. You may want to put certain treats in certain areas that provide them with a means to have to get to that treat, so it's not as readily available, so it in a sense gives them things to do. But wooden blocks to chew on, they may prefer to have other types of small child's toys like plastic rings, and some rats will actually use these, carry them around and play with them. So just keep in mind anything that seems safe, anything that seems like it's not something they could chew and ingest and potentially lead to health problems, but anything that's going to lead to a more enriching cage lifestyle is going to be an appropriate toy. Not to mention the old-fashioned toilet paper cardboard rolls or paper towel cardboard rolls. Rats will sometimes climb through these, use them as tunnels, and they will actually chew them as well and use them as bedding material. In general, rats are very quiet animals. It's extremely uncommon that they're going to make noise. There are no typical vocalizations that you should expect on a regular basis from your rat. What you should expect is vocalizations that tend to be related to concerns, such as crying out in pain. If, for example, they were to get a toe caught in the cage or break a toenail or injure themselves, they do sometimes vocalize or squeak and make sort of a high-pitched squeaking type of sound if they become very scared, if they become nervous, when they're sometimes first handled, if somebody takes their rat out of the home and the rat becomes nervous, and for example, they go to the veterinarian, when they're first picked up, they may vocalize, squeak a little bit, and make a few sounds, but basically, that's about the most sound that they're going to make. Sort of a short squeak, a vocalization, a little bit of a warning type of sound that either indicates something has scared them, something has hurt them, or they've injured themselves and they're alerting you to that. Most of the time, a lot of the cues that rats have for each other relate to body language and recognition of certain movements and certain gestures. They don't tend to have a vocal or spoken language. Most of the time, vocalizations that are short squeaks relate to an outcry, a warning, or fear type vocalizations. One of the most important things that you can do with your rat, as we've discussed many times, is proper socialization. And some people do consider training an aspect of socialization, and training as a means to make sure that your pet has the best disposition, is the nicest, is easy to work with, and becomes an overall totally enjoyable type of pet. When it comes to training a pet rat, this is a different area because this is going to depend on what you may consider what you need your rat to do. It's very well known that rats are very smart animals. They are used extensively in biomedical research for different areas of learning, behavior, the ability for recognition. We've all heard of putting the rat in the maze and having them find their way through. They can learn through conditioning behaviors, oftentimes with a reward. So a lot of times what people may train their rats to do are not going to be what we think you train your dog to do. They generally won't sit on command. They generally won't learn these types of tricks, but what they can learn to do, and often with food rewards, is to respond to their names, respond to interaction with people. They can be trained to use litter boxes or litter pans so that they eliminate in one area of the cage. Some rats can actually be trained to respond to different stimuli that's often food driven. People have trained their rats to run through obstacle courses, which can be entertaining as well. So training is going to require time, it's going to require patience, it's going to require positive reinforcement with a favorite food or a favorite type of treat, but it's also going to require a sensible approach to what you think your pet rat may need to do for you. It may be as much as setting up an obstacle course or a maze. It may be as much as them just learning to come when they're called or to be able to be socialized to being handled. I wouldn't expect that you're going to be able to make your rat able to do a lot of tricks, although they can be trained to do that, but most often training and aspects of training relate to socialization, handling, and overall having a really nice pet. So if you're interested in rats and you love them and you open your home to having rats, or you're just interested in learning about them, check in your community and see if there's a local perhaps meetup group, or if there's an organization of pet rat owners that is formed, or if you're a rat owner and you know other people are interested, start a rat club on your own. A lot of times rat clubs and rat organizations are set up for people to have a network, for people to get to know other people that have a joint interest in keeping pet rats, and also as a means of sharing information, of being able to meet with like-minded people to discuss rat care, to have people come in and give lectures and talks, to share information about maybe good places to buy products where you can get discounts, understanding what's available, what makes sense in pet rat ownership, networking with people who do rescue, networking with people that you can then trust to help with your pet rat care. So depending on your community, depending on where you live, depending on your interest in pet rats, seek out and determine if there is a pet rat meetup or a pet rat club or an organization devoted to the ownership and care of pet rats, as well as whether there are any breeders that may be interested in hosting people, or whether there's a small community, even if it's online, of people who enjoy owning, taking care of, and sharing their lives with pet rats, to allow you to expand a little bit, get to know others, and also the opportunity to start an organization that promotes the care and well-being of pet rats.